Arrive at the expensive restaurants because the women cannot cook anymore. The women do not cook at home. So what happens, they arrive at expensive restaurants, paying more than that they should for a food. Remember, a chicken costs £5. To make a normal andi, a normal dish, it will cost you £5 to £10. Young people, listen. £5 to £10, you could feed a whole family. Did you know that? You probably spend £10 on a small takeaway. With £5 to £10, you can feed a whole family. These are life skills. But these women cannot cook. This is why the young men should not marry a woman who cannot cook. If they are demanding a high dowry from you, these high dowries, 60,000, 70,000, 80,000 dowries, do not come to me for the talaq form 6 months down the line. Because you're stupid enough to pay high dowries to a woman who cannot cook, who does not wear the hijab correctly, and then will demand for you to take her to Tipu Sultan for a dinner, for iftar, and you're spending £60, expecting the man to earn more than £3,000 a month, more than that, to fund her expensive lifestyle, so she can buy designer goods, and then have a car that the man cannot afford. He gets the car and finance, and then they land at Ladypool Road. And then what happens? They eat and behave like animals by throwing the rubbish on the road. This is what happens. They throw the rubbish on the road. You have a £60,000 car, a £500,000 house and more, and you do not even have the common sense to deal with your rubbish. You throw it on the road like an animal. That is the state of these people. And then they make Ramadan and iftar and Eid into fashion shows. On Eid, when they have the fair, and then the person goes out with all his family and they're throwing rubbish everywhere. Basic common sense. Drink a bottle of water, throw it on the floor. That's the behavior in the month of Ramadan. So the men have no aql, no brains, no intellect, the men, and then they marry women who are the same. As I mentioned about high dowries, that's a different issue, but they pay high dowries. Some of them hire cars, expensive cars. They're paying £10,000 a day for perhaps 5 cars which you do not even own. You fool. You do not even own the car. You're just hiring the car for £10,000. Then what happens? The wedding hall is £50,000. The catering is £20,000. Then you ask him, where are you living? I'm living on rent. You could have purchased your own house with that much money. Where's your intellect? That is the type of community we're dealing with in terms of materialistically. They've become so materialistic that they want expensive weddings, £50,000 halls. I'm telling you, young men, do not be stupid. If the in-laws want you to book a £50,000 hall, break the deal. That woman is not worth it. Because if a Sayyida Fatima radiallahu anha, the best of women, did not demand high dowries with the best of men, Sayyiduna Ali radiallahu anhu, best of people, they did not demand these type of things, then what's the point of these fake abayas and fake hijabs and fake beards? These young men, they have beards. Even drug dealers in Birmingham now have beards. It's a fashion statement. And then you have no practicality in your deen. You have no brain. And then some of you may be wondering, how do I know all these things? Because what happens, the young men, they get married, they come to me. They have a talaq, they come to me. Then you must have heard recently, I announced I do no nikahs and no talaqs. Because of these experiences, I'm going to give you advice in lectures that the best nikah is the cheapest dowry. And the best walima is the walima held in the masjid. But when you go to the masjid, in our masjid, what happened? Some of the people complained to me, some of the women are turning up without hijab, their stomachs showing, to the masjid. Straight away I summoned We have no committee. And that's a different issue. The foolish people who run committees. Every individual who could not become a councillor or an MP becomes a committee member. But never mind. I summon the masjid, people who run the masjid. Our masjid is good. I said to them, ban these marriages that happen. The women are turning up. Where is the intellect of the men? They should be saying to the women, you are going to a public space. You should be covering yourselves and have modesty. But now there's fashions that some of these women, they wear abayas. They wear abayas, open abayas. It's like a fashion statement. A hijab with makeup. Hijab at the top and everything else underneath. And the men are not even telling them. And some men, when they tell them, the women of the household, they tell the men not to tell the young women. So they've lost their modesty and they've become materialistic. Islam becomes a ritual. Ramadan comes, you go to your iftari, and as a part of that problem of being a materialistic society is the rubbish that we throw. Because when materialistic people, they behave like Fir'aun. Fir'aun had everything. You eat something, you throw it because the bin man will pick it up. And then they look down on the cleaners. They look down on the cleaners in Makkah and Medina also. They look down on the cleaners in Makkah and Medina. They see a Bengali worker, cleaner, and they look down on him. They don't know that that man may have a high status with Allah. I know of a Bengali cleaner in Medina who went into the masjid. He prayed his salah, he died in the prayer. Never look down on someone because you deem them inferior to yourself. So what happens is that this is common sense life issues that I need to tell young people. Younger people, I'm still young, remember. Younger people. What are those life lessons? Once we went to Makkah al-Mukarramah and we leaving al-Makkah al-Mukarramah, and one of the people there, he had slippers. So this is a British illness. This is a British illness. He's gone to another country, he's thinking everyone here is poor. So he's going to be generous now. How? By donating his slippers. So he goes to a hotel worker and he says, here, have these slippers from me. Straight away I stopped him. I said, why are you donating, why are you gifting a pair of slippers to this worker? Used slippers. He said, no, it's sadaqah. I said, it's not sadaqah. Because sadaqah is when you give the best thing, not the inferior thing. I said, what you should do is place the slippers in a place in the corner of the hotel. The person who will need the slippers, he will utilize the slippers. You can place a paper note, slippers for anyone who may need them. He disagreed because of the arrogance, the Fir'aun inside everyone. Similarly, in one other journey in Umrah, we went and purchased tea, 10 cups of tea. While drinking the tea, we realized the tea had something inside of it like a TCP type smell. So what do you do with such a tea? You complain to the owner and you throw it away. One of the individuals there, rich person, ostensibly rich, very good job, and he says, let's donate this to one of the poor Pakistanis or Bengalis. Straight away, I said, you do not drink this tea yourself and you want to give it to someone whom you deem inferior to yourself? So it's a mindset that we need to change when we go abroad as well. Like when people go Palestine, there's British Muslims who go to Palestine and they begin to haggle Palestinian shopkeepers. Can you believe that? Over £1, 50p, 3 shekels, 6 shekels. You know of the story Sheikh, the merchant of Venice. You don't study that in English literature anymore, in Oldham. Shakespeare, the merchant of Venice. Sheikh, the Jew. Stingy. We Muslims should not have that trait. So, these are ailments that we find and the materialism that we have, it's led to our throwing rubbish. Because what happens, people in the Mangla Dam in Pakistan, they'll throw the rubbish there in the dam. It's their own country, but they'll throw the rubbish there. Then he'll marry a British woman and come to Britain with a visa. Maybe England jasa. He gets to England, but he starts a family here in the UK. He doesn't train his children not to throw litter, not to throw rubbish. You're not in a competition with your cousins for material wealth. But unfortunately, what happens, the parents inculcate in the kids, you're in competition with your cousins for material wealth. That makes them worry about dunya. They marry then a woman who demands £5,000 a month. So some of them go into drug dealing. Some of them go into fraud, white collar gangsters. They go into fraud, they go into haram income because of the demands of society, because society is making all these demands upon them. They do not realize. Some of them become stressed and then they resort to what? To drug abuse. They don't abuse the drug abuses them. They start taking the drugs because of the stress of materialistic life. A young man, his father will pressure him, you need to earn this much. He gets married, the wife will pressure him. Let me tell you something about women's rights as well, just while we're discussing this. With regard to the dowry, when the woman demands the dowry and then she says she needs to work as well, because I've heard there's a new issue. Muslim couples, both couples are working. Who's raising the kids? Muslim couples are working. Who's raising the kids? They go and give their kids to carers. This is a new trend. I don't know if the trend is common in Oldham, but the more south you go, the more different the terrain changes. Husband and wife both go out to work. So the woman, she demands her Islamic rights. You want to talk about Islamic rights? Talk to me. You're earning money, then you need to contribute to the house, because when they say the man pays for the costs, it is when the woman stays at home and looks after his home. It's when she cleans his home, she cooks his food, and she raises his children. Why don't you mention that in the Islamic rights? When they say the man pays for the costs, it means the woman stays at home, she cooks the food, she cleans the house, and I'm not mentioning in-laws. That's a different issue. I'm talking about the house she lives in, she cleans it. She feeds the children, she raises the children, she cooks the food, and the husband pays for everything. But if the woman is earning, then she is not doing her side of the contract, of the marriage. So the man doesn't need to pay for all the costs. Then they can share the costs. If they want to live like that, it's like when you marry, some people, they may marry a woman, they go to a chip shop, the woman says, I'll pay for my food, you pay for yours. That's the type of women they're marrying. And then when they need to foot the bill, what happens is that the woman then will realize and say, okay, let's go back to our traditional values. I'll stay at home, I'll raise the kids, I'll clean the house, I'll obey my husband in good things, and the husband gives her rights, which is paying for the maintenance. He doesn't beat her. The abuse of women is haram. He doesn't harm her in any way. She has rights as well. And then there's this new trend. There's a new trend on these social media 2-second attention span social media people that they put out for the women, misguiding them. That is, they say the woman doesn't need to cook and clean. The woman doesn't need to cook and clean in the house. That's not her obligation. That's false. Because what that means, the Shafi'is say this, what that means, let me tell you what it means. When the fiqh books say the woman doesn't need to cook and clean, what it means, she should be ready at all times for her husband. So she's not busy with cooking and cleaning. Do you understand what I mean? She should be ready for her husband all the time. But what do? These women, they will only dress out when they go onto the roads. They will dress up. They will dress up in weddings. But then, when they get home, they won't dress up for the man. But then they will demand their rights and saying, I don't need to cook and clean, so let's go out to eat. Let's order a takeaway. So the man's spending 40, 50, 60 pounds daily on takeaways. And when his money runs out, he goes to the cheap chicken and chip shops. That's the sad reality. That's what's happening on the ground. So do not be fooled by just the hijab and the fake Islamic persona, this fake Islamic persona. Real Islamic people look after their parents. So you have this new illness, and this illness should not grow in our community of placing parents in old people's homes. If you marry a woman, okay, the right of the woman is she doesn't need to look after your parents. Okay, fair enough. But did you know the man has the right to prevent the woman then to visit her own parents? Talk about that right. Yes, it's in books like Al-Quduri. They mention that right. The man has the right to prevent her from going to her parents' home. You don't want to look after my parents? You're not allowed to visit your parents. If your parents want to visit you, they can talk to you at the door. It mentions that in the fiqh books. The man has the right not to allow her parents in the house. You should be, so if you want to play equal rights, let's play equal rights. Do you understand this? So many of these men, they come and complain to me about their marriages. If I started a legal firm giving you your Islamic rights, the woman doesn't want to look after your parents, okay, Islamic rights, she cannot go and visit her own parents. Then some of these women, what they will do, they'll make cakes for their next door neighbor and put it on social media. This is what people tell me. And they say, look, I made a cake for my non-Muslim next door neighbor woman, but their mother-in-law, they will hate her like the devil. Do you understand? So Islamic rights, place them in true context. And this is why we've become a very materialistic society. Many of us are here from the 1950s and 1960s. We came as economic migrants. Our forefathers were in the army. Some of us, they were in the army. They were recruited in our region. People were recruited into the army because they were deemed as good fighters. British army, that the white bigot wouldn't know. And then what happened? They came here as migrants. Economic migrants come with a materialistic mindset. So that materialistic mindset, it's filtered down to the youth. Filtered down. You won't realize. It's filtered down to you. That you need to have this, you need to have that, you need to have this. I'm telling you, you do not need to have anything except strong iman. Your rizq will come to you. You need to have what? Strong iman. You have strong iman and guidance from the Quran, guidance from the Sunnah, you will be guided in everything else. So this is why the rubbish is a symptom of the main problem. The drug dealing is a symptom of the main problem. The ignorance is a symptom of the main problem. Because even some of the education some people do, they do it purely for a materialistic reason. I ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to enable us to act upon what has been said. I ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to make what we say beneficial to our communities up and down the UK, everywhere else where they may be listening to the English language. We ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to give victory to Ahlul Palestine, to Ta'ifatul Mansura in Palestine. We ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala that He gives victory, that we have freedom of Al-Masjid Al-Aqsa and the return of all the Palestinians back to Palestine. In our lifetimes, very soon, inshallah, جزا الله عنا سيدنا محمدا صلى الله عليه وسلم ما هو أهله. سبحان ربك رب العزة عما يصفون وسلام على المرسلين والحمد لله رب العالمين.